Welcome to the Media Roundtable Special Edition, where we dive deep into the secrets of the craft of audio and podcast advertising. Sometimes we talk about other kinds of advertising too. But we're going to give you a perspective on industry topics in service of the marketers responsible for the success of these programs. We call them the Chief Audio Officer. And I should say I am your host today. My name is Dan Granger. I'm the CEO of Oxford Road. I am joined by a panel of wizards who are going to share with us something that's very exciting for me, something that has been, I would say, more than a decade in the making, truly, that has come to fruition recently. And three of the key contributors that have brought this into being are here with me today as we do a bit of an unveiling. So with me, we have Brian Kim, who is our Director of Analytics at Oxford Road. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Dan.
We have Tucker Palusis, who is VP of Strategy at Oxford Road. Welcome, Tucker.
Thank you. Good to be here. We
have Mike Dunsmore, who is Director of Analytics, Reporting, and Insights at Oxford Road. We gave you extra words.
Thank you.
We're glad that you're bringing all of them here today. So welcome to the show. As I mentioned, there was a time when I had a client before having this agency, probably 15, 20 years ago. And we were so excited about the idea of having case studies, real world data showing how advertising performed, because we know as performance marketers that the best way to predict if a show or a media buy is going to be successful is to see how it performed for similar advertisers in the past. And we actually bought the website advertisingcasestudies.com. The problem is that populating that is a whole nother matter. What you can actually find that is reliable, getting that in a way that can be understood and applicable to the market in a broad sense, getting the permission to do that. These are hard challenges, but it's really the holy grail for any performance marketer. You want to know that if you're going to make an investment in a media asset, that you're de-risking that as much as possible. And so we have been on a quest for many years, and all three of our guests today come from Veritone One originally before merging with us here at Oxford Road. But through both agencies, I think we've had prototypes of what we are unveiling to the market. And we've had definitely early versions, beta versions that have been good enough. But here today, we can formally announce the launch of what we are calling Orbit, which is the Oxford Road Benchmark Intelligence Tool. So let me tell you what Orbit is. Imagine $1 billion of performance data, all aggregated, normalized, cleansed, and benchmarked, even taking into account attribution, so that you can actually see the track record of shows, whether they've had 3 advertisers in them or 30 advertisers in them, shows and media assets, how they have historically performed, which has actually created the most powerful planning tool in the history of this media channel. And so I'm really excited to have you guys, because we're going to talk about what this is, what this means, and some of the insights that are coming out of it already. And as part of our kickoff, we're starting to launch a list. We are going to have a list that will make publicly available to the market with the top 15 shows ranked by performance, first generally, and then for different slices of the market. And that's all here happening now. And it's just, for me, if you're not in this business and you're not responsible for the performance of your ads, this might not sound like anything, but if you're in the business of doing this sort of thing, this is profound. This is a big deal. So why don't we just open it up a little bit before we start going into some of the technicalities. Tucker, you've been at this for a while. Can you just talk about, from your perspective, what this is and what is new about it that kind of goes beyond some of its predecessor outputs?
Absolutely. In short, everything is new. Like you said, we've had some prototypes, we've had some shared client dashboards. Those have all been great for what we've needed. but there's never been anything that's been able to, I can go look at a placement and I don't have to worry, well, was this a pixel? Was this a code? Was this a URL? Was it modeled? Is it multiplied? It's like you never knew exactly what you were looking at, and you never knew what client you were looking at it for. With this, to be able to see a show's performance at an aggregate level, I'm able to make a decision so much faster than having to click around 5 tabs to 5 different dashboards of seeing and hoping that somebody's goal was close enough to mine. It's like I click a couple filters, I have my learning, and I go. And I can do that for any show that I want that of what we sponsor. Like it's really hard to even compare it to what those prototypes were. It's just so different and so much more advanced.
So, look, I think if this were the Declaration of Independence, which it's got similar weight relative to our little industry, I would say the Thomas Jefferson here is Brian Kim. I met Brian about a year ago when we first got together with the two companies. And in our first meeting, we started talking about this and the progress he had made, some of the frustrations we had had on our side trying to bring something like this into market. And it was, to me, a bit of a theory. And I've always been, I'm always skeptical when I hear about anything that anybody's going to build that isn't already active and in the market. Brian, you have toiled against a lot of challenges and odds to bring this into being. What are you proud of about this thing? What do you think really brings this to life in your view?
Yeah, absolutely. I think earlier you talked about how this is kind of the holy grail, and for me and my journey to get to here, that is an accurate description. I would say a lot of this started with me being one of the most indecisive people that I know. I always look for other ways or other kind of tools out there to help me make the right decision. And that's how I got into data. I'm a big advocate of managing by the numbers. And this tool really, I think, enables people to manage by the numbers, allows advertisers to manage by those numbers. I think what really excites me about this tool is that it is based and anchored on performance. There's a lot of other rankers out there, but none of them are like this, where it actually ties everything back to the client performance. It's helpful to know kind of what placements have kind of the most reach, the most downloads, the most spend. But we would really want to know what works, what's going to work for our advertisers and our clients. And this tool really helps us do that.
And it's amazing what you've been able to do. Now, I think what makes it real is like just starting to see the outputs, right? And we're not giving demos to everybody that's listening, but I just want to talk through the top 15, and I'm just going to read them out quickly. And we're not going to go show by show and unpack them, but we will talk about some of the themes. But before we get into that, Brian, just while we're on it, can we talk methodology for a second? We set out to have a public-facing output that people could help use to understand what type of information is now available. And the fact that we've got such a robust data set with so many advertisers and so many dollars of data feeding into it. What were some of the constraints we put on these to determine who were the top drivers of performance in podcasting?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, when we were looking at our rankers, what we did is we took a snapshot of the last 12 months, the rolling last 12 months, but we also applied additional filters to make sure that the patterns that we were seeing were actual patterns. They weren't just kind of one-offs with one show, one client type of thing. So we applied additional filters for these rankers where we had to have at least 3 clients kind of within that vertical. At least half of the placements had to exceed what their goal was. And then we were able to kind of see that we had a good kind of base of data and sample to make reliable rankings and decisions off of.
Fabulous. Okay. Well, so, there's been a lot of rigor and a lot of discipline behind this to make sure that we're not showing outliers and that we can have confidence in the data that we're sharing with the marketplace, right? So let me just read them off. And if anybody wants to do a drum roll for me, I think, this is a big deal. Thank you. Oh, love it. Love it. We got really high-tech sound effects, the power of AI in full force here. But but I'm going to read them to you, and then we'll just talk about what some of this reveals. Okay, and I'm just going to say the names of the shows. All right, top 15 podcasts ranked by performance. So the 15th highest show, using the criteria Brian just described, is Soder, Soder. Number 14, The Toast. Number 13, Sweet and Sour Podcast. Number 12, The Salem Tovar Podcast. Number 11, Emergency Intercom. Number 10, Strict Scrutiny. Number 9, Lore. Number 7, The Bulwark Podcast. Tied at number 7, I guess I didn't realize we have two number 7s. We have Explain It to Me. Explain to me why we have two podcasts tied at number 7. Number 6, we have Unsubscribe Podcast. Number 5, we have Lenny's Podcast, which is about product growth and career. Number 4, Monday Morning Podcast, tip of the hat to Bill Burr. Number 3, the Megyn Kelly Show. Congratulations to Megyn Kelly. Number 2, the David Pakman Show. And the number 1 podcast for performance is Critical Role. A lot of familiar names on here. A lot of shows that we've been involved with, I think, for a long time. And it's great to see that, the durability of some of these to prove their efficacy for advertisers over and over again. So, look, as we review this list, I think we had some time to look at this and go, all right, what patterns are we seeing? What is interesting about the particular shows that were surfaced here? So let's go around the horn here and just call out some of the different things that we observed. Tucker, what surprised you in this?
2 things really stood out to me. One, it's a pretty wide spread of genres. It's so much I think we hear about it's comedy and true crime. That's what's going to perform for everybody. And you see comedy on there, you see some true crime, but there are a lot more genres that come into the mix. So I think that helps break out a little bit. And then the second is, I looked up all these shows. There's almost every single show has more than 200 episodes already recorded. So I guess I was surprised that there aren't any early risers that hit performance right out of the gate who have maybe 50 episodes or even 5. It's to have 200 episodes under your belt, I think you're starting to see like there's more that goes into performance, and these guys have figured it out because of having so many reps doing it.
It's funny. We've had Jason Kalkanis on this podcast, who has This Week in Startups, and he's got the All In Pod, and he's been doing it forever. And I had him on early, and I was like, hey, Jason, can you give me some feedback? Like, what do I need to do better? And he's like, I get asked this a lot, and I usually tell people I don't want to say right now. He goes, usually I say, ask me again when you've done like 150, because until then, you're really not going to be good at it. And it just is what it is. And so, yeah, I think doing the reps, doing the work, that stands out. On the genres piece, what I thought was interesting is, there were multiple genres. We saw the most repeat in comedy and technically news, but I also saw that if you take government, if you take politics, the ones that are talking about current events and opinion driven, there is clearly a higher concentration in news related and comedy than anything else. But yeah, there definitely was diversification. And even in the top slot, Critical Role is very much about like Dungeons and Dragons, and it's like one of the early kind of Twitch companion shows, as I know it or understand it. So really interesting and important that you can probably determine which genres are most likely to perform as a performance marketer, but it's easy to get caught without realizing there's opportunity everywhere. And it's really about, the individual, like every podcast is an island to some extent, and you can't really just work off hard and fast rules and limit everything to genre when you're buying. Mike, would love to hear your voice on this. What stood out to you?
You know what stood out to me is actually the absence of some of the more popular big marquee name podcasts. So I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, but Joe Rogan in particular, right? I would expect him to be, top 10, top 15 of any performance list. Certainly, he would be on the list in terms of, reach or popularity. Um, Not on the top 15 here, and I think there's interesting reasons behind that, but we can talk more about that a little bit later.
Kind of just going off of that, I think my part was my surprise was that there were surprise names kind of on this list, and I was pleasantly surprised that there were surprise names on this list. Like what that shows to me, and kind of that what that surprise is we're uncovering performers that other rankers aren't necessarily identifying, and we're identifying new opportunities where we're actually seeing performance. And for me, that was a pleasant surprise, seeing that we were able to uncover new kind of avenues for optimization or growth and optimization through.
Yeah. You're both talking about some really key insights that I think matter if you're building a plan for performance. And like, we know there's brand sensitivity considerations that every advertiser needs to make. I don't know anybody that says, I just don't care, put me wherever, I'll get performance. Sometimes people are close to that, but most brands that are successful in this channel do have some guidelines, and they really want to kind of balance their business objectives with their brand values. But if you're willing to look around, it's so important, I think, for performance marketers to not be legalistic in their interpretation of what's possible for them. If you say, well, we're only going to, it's not worth our time if they're not in the top 20 or the top 50, or if you say we're not going to go there if they talk about politics, or if they say dirty words in comedy. So we do no comedy and no true crime because it could be violent, and no this because it could disagree with us on that. If you cut things in broad swaths, sometimes those brand safety filters keep you from discovering where there's real potential. And like one of the big things is like, don't sleep on the long tail. And a lot of times, like by the time it's showing up in Edison's top 50 ranker or top 100 ranker, word is already out about that show. And you're going to pay a premium for it because they're the ones getting the big minimum guarantee deals from publishers. It's usually the ones that are just below that list where there's going to be a lot of opportunity. So, performance marketers generally understand you got to zig when people zag, but there's clearly no more visceral example of that than what we have here. So I think we've done a pretty good job talking about some of the themes that led to the top 15, but we've also had a chance to unpack, just the full breadth of the system, right? I mean, Brian, if you don't mind just maybe reintroducing a little bit of how robust is this thing? I threw out a couple of headline stats, but like how many different advertisers, how much money has been spent? What are the genres? Can you share a little bit about the dimensions of what we're looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have over $1.6 billion of media advertising dollars within our index. This spans over hundreds of clients over the past year. We have them ranked by industries or across industries. We have over 120 genres indexed within our dashboard. We have multiple media channels as well. We have the majority in podcasts, but we also have YouTube reporting. We also have social reporting, streaming reporting, as well as radio reporting in here as well. So we have just a wealth of stuff to benchmark and index against, and to mitigate risk when building out plans.
And so pretty robust. And I think, look, I try not to be too self-congratulatory when we do, communications like this podcast, but I think that, like, I'll be honest, this was harder to make valuable, even with the technical capabilities, 5-10 years ago when we had a smaller data set. If you can only look at a list of, 50 shows from, 30 advertisers, it's very different than the number of channels and the number of particular shows and the number of advertisers and the total dollars spent. It's like, I think this thing, the importance of it compounds with scale. And I think that, one of the best things about our merger is that it allowed us to assemble the world's biggest data set for this type of behavior, and to start to get these kind of outputs in a way that you had reliable sample sizes, right? How often do we try to draw conclusions about anything in marketing to try to be somewhat scientific, but the sample's too small, right? And so here together, we've been able to create a sample size that really lets us find meaningful patterns that are more than just a bunch of outliers cobbled together, right? So that's some reaction to that. One thing I saw, and I don't know if any of you have any of the details on this, but one of the things that I think our team found looking through the data was that faith-based podcasts actually have an opportunity to overperform. Is that something you think that is common knowledge to marketers? And is there any other data we have to support that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was one of the areas that was actually a surprise to me personally. So we were scouring kind of the genres to see kind of where those hidden. We saw that faith and religion really kind of stood out, and more specifically the Christianity genre or subgenre below that. Just to kind of level set, first we kind of defined the scope. So we were looking at the last 12 months. We were looking at U.S. based only, goal normalized within. And the minimum coverage had to be at least three distinct clients, with at least 3 paid drops per show per client. And for the Christianity genre, we had more than a dozen advertisers in this category over the last 12 months. They spanned across 6 different IAB categories, and each one of these categories beats the benchmark. Looking at it in aggregate, the faith-based or religion kind of based genres, they sit in our top 20 of the 120 plus genres, so the top quintile. So it's strong performance there, but then drilling in even further to the Christianity genre, that jumps to our top decile, our top 6 in terms of consistently providing returns for our clients. So I guess what does that tell us? That tells us that faith-based programming delivers reliable efficiency with loyal audiences. When advertisers' values align with community, the performance follows, and it shows across multiple brands, not just one.
What do you think I think faith-based is an interesting use case as performance marketers look across and go, where can we go to get better performance? And now we can articulate the output. Any theories as to why? Why do you think that particular genre might be a standout here?
I have to say, I think it has to do with trust and identity, right? So people who are tuning into these, they are identified with the faith. There's an element of trust there. So if the faith is shared, then there's a credibility to the messenger that may be lacking in other genres or other formats.
And if you're not a faith-based person, you would call this a cult following, perhaps. But I think that's kind of the idea, right? Is that we're in the business of finding vehicles to have a leader or a spokesperson who has a community of people that share values, that share opinions, that share ideas, that they go to illuminate and to communicate something of meaning to them. And when the host is able to then say, I believe in this thing here, and you should too, there's a great through line there. And it's interesting when you think about faith-based shows, not only do you have that kind of that close-knit community and that inherent trust that you talk about, Mike. I think that's definitely true. But, I think one of the other interesting things is like, what do they say not to talk about in mixed company? Religion and politics, right? And I think there's another factor here that we see in the data. When you see news and politics and government-related shows, we live in a very polarized world. Religion is very polarizing. And subjects that are sensitive for people to be talking about in mixed company actually may scare away a lot of brand dollars who are afraid that if they affiliate with that content, that's actually going to reflect negatively on their brand. But the brands that do go in benefit from the fact that usually ends up lowering the price, which makes it a better opportunity from an efficiency standpoint. And so they can get those better results. So I imagine all of these things are true. And I would say just pro tip to performance marketers, unless you have a set of values at your organization that is anti-religion for any way, a lot of your customers probably are faith-based, even if your marketing team is not. And I think it's interesting if you can apply some filtering to make sure that you can go into genres like faith-based programming or politics for that matter, as long as it aligns with your values. That's why we've talked in the past so much about things like civility score. If there's no personal attack happening in a program and nobody's saying that somebody is a bad person for this or that, usually your brand's going to be okay and you're not going to be caught up in a controversy. Whether it's religion or politics, if they're personally attacking people in the program, one, I would question the authenticity of the content that they're talking about. But also, that's when it's a telltale sign that there's going to be a backlash because they're going to say something against somebody else. But I think the best thing a marketer can do is actually take the time to look past the general assumptions and actually go to the nuance. And clearly those that are doing that in this genre are reaping the benefits when it comes to ad performance.
Have you ever heard of any of these companies? Shopify, Bayer, Oracle, Indeed, Masterclass, Babbel, Tommy John, LegalZoom, Constant Contact. We could go on. And we could go on so much further now that we're joining forces with our friends at Veritone One. We have created the world's largest specialist agency in audio and in podcasting. Nobody's ever done anything like this before. And it's an exciting opportunity for everybody involved. What we do at this agency is we offer comprehensive services for brands that are looking to break out and be successful in this space. We call you the chief audio officer because we believe that what you need requires real specialist work. And the way that we approach it includes proprietary methods in media planning and buying, analytics and attribution, insights. We have a proprietary process called Audiolytics, which is our trademark method for creative development that allows us to score ads for their persuasiveness. Audio isn't just the work that we do, it truly is our passion, and we aim to elevate this industry to new heights. And that's why we're the leaders in brand safety and suitability, as well as in volume in the space. We try to provide solutions that ensure that your ad buys align your values that you have as a brand with your business metrics that you need to be successful. This stuff is hard, but we're here to make it a little bit easier for you. And if you're a chief audio officer seeking best in market performance at maximum viable scale, please get in touch with us. Do the right thing. Go to oxfordroad.com. And if you're passionate about audio, if you're strategic, if you're relentless, and you're looking for a career change, consider joining our mission as an agent of influence. Send us your resume through our website, oxfordroad.com. We made it really easy to spell. Sign up for our free newsletter, The Influencer, and be sure to mention that you heard about us right here on the Media Roundtable podcast, because attribution is important. Thanks, everybody.
What do you think about you have to make the case to your internal team to get on that show, whether it's your client or your stakeholder, having the performance and going to someone and saying, we can get past what you just said, and it has a likelihood to perform, makes that case a lot easier when you have the data to back up that you've de-risked it from a spend lens as much as a brand lens.
Yeah, without a doubt. So, this is not a commercial for the faith-based programming, but it's interesting just because I think, as I've been a marketer for a couple of decades, I've actually seen the public sentiment go from seeing a lot of that type of content as like church lady, a lot of judgment and things like that. Seems like as media has fragmented, different types of faith-based content has proliferated. And people are getting more open to it now. You see, general market shows like American Idol having a gospel night where everybody's singing a religious song. I think there were times you wouldn't have seen that sort of thing in mass marketing, but it seems like that is a lane that marketers are actually becoming more open to, and may not have all the same connotations as it used to. Politics seems to be the one that's still pretty thorny and challenging for brands. But again, nuance and everything. Tucker, staying with you, let's move beyond the faith-based genre. Is it true that if I am in a particular industry, that the secret to success is to advertise on podcasts that are like that industry?
This is what I have been wanting to be able to prove, or at least have something directional for a long time, because over 13 years, I have gotten this question many, many times. And using Orbit, I was able to look at matching industry with the genre. So, for example, a tech company with the tech genres, or a health business in the health and fitness category. I matched like 3 or 4 different industries to their endemic genres, and I wasn't able to find a statistically significant lift by running industry to endemic genre. And so while that's not to say we've proven it, it is to say that there's so much noise, or at least so many other performing genres out there, that it's not a silver bullet to say, if I'm going to test into the show, I go with the genre that matches my industry, and that will give me the best performance. And I think if I had this insight and been able to back it up, we would have saved a few pilot programs over the last few years, and have been able to push back harder on clients that go in with this mindset and tell them, hey, let's spread it across, let's get the performance in any genre, and we would have saved a little bit of pain points along the way.
I mean, this is so important, and this will be so easily buried in the conversation, but the myth busting that this enables, particularly in what you just mentioned, like marketers since the beginning of time, I think, have always operated under the assumption that it's about finding our target audience and messaging narrowly to that audience. And then you get a channel like podcasting where there's 4 million different podcasts, and you go, well, my customers are CPAs or business decision makers in the, in the marketing department or whatever. And you go, so I only need to be on shows that talk to that person. And what you find out is that's actually not the right answer. That's actually the best way to have like maybe 3 new customers a year finding out about your business. And that it turns out your customers are listening to the same shows that everybody else is listening to. And their whole identity isn't just in their subspecialty, particularly with their recreational time. So, this could be a white paper on its own. This could be its own kind of press release. And I hope that we are able to prioritize it on some of our thought leadership roadmap, because the implications are profound, and it goes against an assumption that I would say most marketers typically make.
And we even tried to go as far as further up the planning process, showing them the MRI research that also shows them their audience is in other genres, and it wasn't enough to convince everybody. So having the ability to show them in the planning process and the performance process, I think we'll be able to get it out. I tried to push the example of, you never believe something your parents tell you, but then as soon as someone that's not related to you tells it to you, you believe it. It's like, you think about that from the host perspective. Your tech company and your tech genre is like your parent, but going into another genre, you kind of catch someone outside of when they're not expecting it. And that's ultimately what I'm thinking is getting that person to convert. Like, they're in a different space.
This is why I get all my medical advice on the Joe Rogan podcast. Exactly.
So true. Yeah. The deer antler spray will absolutely work.
That's an interesting point. Okay. Hey, Brian, back to you. And speaking of being self-aggrandizing on our own owned media properties, I do think this is worth saying, this next one. We had some of us had an idea that it would be a really good idea if we took two agencies that were competing in the market and put them together and saw if we could be a better company as one. You can get validation from the growth of our collective business since we came together last year. But at the end of the day, we work for the brands, we work for the advertisers, and it seems like you were able to pull something out there that certainly helps me sleep well at night. Do you want to share your finding?
Yeah, absolutely. This one is quite near and dear to my heart as we've been living this day in and day out for the last year. What we have found is post-merger, we have improved performance, or in the lens of efficiency, as anchored to goals, by 30% with increased billing. For me, that's proof that all of our hard work is paying off, and the theory that we had, that we were better together, was correct.
So, and can you talk a little bit about, like, because if I hear that, I mean, it's an incredible stat, and maybe the knowing what our job is, every day, it's a monumental thing that I think our company should take pride in. Everybody here just knowing that we're doing a little bit better, 30% better for our customers is huge. What might drive that? Can you substantiate a little bit?
Yeah. Well, before I do that, I just wanted to level set and kind of lay out the land in terms of how we were looking at it. So we were looking at the 2 12-month periods. The first one being the 12 months leading into the mergers, October 23rd through September 24th, and then the post-period merger, which was October 24th to September 25th. And what we did is we compared efficiency using the same kind of ruler or kind of benchmark. And then, what we did is for overall billings, it has increased, but we saw an improvement in efficiency. And I think, as Dan alluded to, over the last year, there's been a lot of work in terms of merging kind of systems, taxonomy, training, processes, and cultures. But despite that, we were able to kind of keep our eyes kind of on the prize and kind of improve efficiency. I think one of the things, hopefully, that had led to it was the combination of data and the enablement to use kind of all those numbers to manage by the numbers and to find those pockets of efficiency and kind of grow our business.
Well, we were all glad to see it. And, I think that being able to kind of cross-reference and take the best of both worlds, we've been after this idea of 1 + 1 = 3. And I'll take 30% in year one, better results. And I think just having the collective buying power grow, having the access to rates, and making sure that we're able to get the lowest cost, which does impact performance. I think that's been very helpful. And just having more performance data and expertise to be able to drive better results, that's a pretty cool thing. So this has been like, I think there's been a lot of change and a lot of innovation and, blood, sweat, toil, and tears. I say that quickly, but it's all very real and deep. But I think this is maybe one of the most meaningful things that has happened for the work that we've all kind of dedicated our careers to. And so thank you guys for all the work you've done for this project and everything we're going to be able to build on moving forward. Before we wrap, I just want to give you guys a chance to give kind of a last word on anything else you might want to add about this initiative, what it might mean for the market, or any spots that we might have missed that have value to the marketers that are listening here. Tucker, anything from you?
We hit on a lot of it. To double tap on Brian's point too, are the agencies' combined forces have gotten better. Goals have also gotten more aggressive in 2025 with everything that's going on from a macroeconomic environment. So having a tool like this to be able to combat some of those external forces that we're up against is going to make sure that we get the best performance for our clients. And then the second thing that we've hit on that I think is important is just the speed to impact ratio. We can go fast and still get actionable insights that are valuable. Often you have to pick one or the other, but just the few, the times that I've been in there and been able to do it, I'm getting the things that, like I said, I've wanted to be able to show for years, and it's not taking me a long time. I'm able to just do that in one session and I have this massive thing that I can go help increase performance and sell things through. So I just I don't know how to state that enough, that this is a pretty impactful thing for us.
Makes me emotional.
I know, me too. Who would have thought over data?
Oh, Mike is crying. If you're not,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I do get a little bit emotional about it. I'm excited about just having, a single objective measure of performance, right? I know everyone is probably familiar with how challenging this was to kind of pull together, and all credit to Brian for kind of pushing this over, the finish line, but just it's unprecedented in the marketplace, right? Every client has different goals. Some clients, maybe they don't have goals, or maybe they have unreasonable goals. And then the differences across measurement methodologies and the measurement, the different KPIs, whether that's ROAS or CPA or anything else, to bring all of that together across hundreds and hundreds of clients and $1.6 billion of media investment in the biggest performance marketing repository data that we have that's in the marketplace is just amazing. So I'm excited to have a single metric that I can dive into from an insights perspective, and really get a dependent variable and start building some models and doing some prediction and some forecasting on this. I think the possibilities for advanced analytics are just enormous.
Well, thank you, Mike, and thank you, Tucker, and thank you, Brian. You're making my dreams come true. This podcast, I've never sang on the show before. This podcast, if you didn't know, is brought to you by Oxford Road, where we want you to succeed in this marketplace and to use your influence for good. If you're a member of the marketing community, you have the power. We have the power to advance voices that don't just entertain and don't just perform, but also edify, and to build bridges across differences and preserve fair-minded discussion around the most important topics of our age. If you're a marketer looking to align your brand values with extraordinary business outcomes, as has been illustrated today, you might want to reach out to our agency, Oxford Road. Go to oxfordroad.com and subscribe to our weekly newsletter. It's called The Influencer. And we're going to keep putting out information, whether you're a client or not. We're going to give you stuff that helps you grow your business in a way that you can feel good about. And we're going to be putting out more lists of the top performers in different genres and different classifications. So we got something for everybody. All you got to do is go to oxfordroad.com and subscribe to that. We'd love to hear from you. If you have feedback, it is the Breakfast of Champions, and we are hungry hippos. Send us an email, info@mediaroundtable.com. If you don't know about Stu's podcast, he'll be the first to tell you. It is called Ad Infinitum, and it is the only podcast about what makes audio ads work and how to make them work better. You probably should thank some people if you've benefited from this today, and I want to thank these people right now. Haley, Bianca, Kyle, Ezra, Everett, Neil. It takes a village to do this, including the team at Podcast One. As always, influence responsibly.